Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dan, and I'm the founder of Thurtel Tech. Thank you so much for joining us today. Some of you might know us from our earlier presentation at Feed Ontario's conference. Today, we are excited to show you how the FoodBank Helper is evolving with powerful new features designed directly from the feedback of food banks just like yours. So we have a packed and valuable session for you today. We will start by walking you through our latest updates for about 10 minutes. Then we will jump into a live demo where you can see exactly how these tools work. Following that, we will have a fantastic presentation from our partners at DoGood on grant writing and how you can get the software a little bit cheaper with their services. And we'll wrap up with a Q&A session where you can ask questions of our amazing partner, Susan, from Clarington's FoodBank. So let's get started. We know that inventory is much more than just a number on a spreadsheet. It's often in multiple places, and that's why we've enhanced our inventory management system. You can now track items across different locations, from the front shelf to the basement to a secondary warehouse. The system will even warn you about expiring items, helping you reduce your food waste. To complement this new system, we've also designed our new donation summary page, which gives you a visual breakdown of donations by category and donor, turning your data into clear, actionable insights for planning and fundraising. This suite of updates is all about serving your people better. Our new groups feature is a game changer. You can create family groups to easily invite specific clients to our online ordering system with a single click. You can also create item groups to apply limits to an entire category, like all dairy products. For volunteers, we've completely overhauled the shift system. It's now cleaner and more intuitive. Admins can manually add or remove volunteers from shifts with automatic email notifications, keeping everyone in the loop. Finally, to offer more dignity and flexibility to your clients, you can now set up custom refresh dates for their monthly points, allowing you to align your service with their needs. Protecting client data is paramount to us. We have significantly enhanced security by adding a multi-factor authentication system, or MFA. Your administrators can now require this extra layer of security for different user groups, ensuring your data stays safe. We've also continued to refine the system based on feedback. The online order packing process is now more intuitive, and we've added several small but mighty improvements, like displaying a family's last point refresh date right on their profile. Finally, I want to share you something that we're incredibly excited about. In collaboration with Susan and her team at Clarington's FoodBank, we're now beta testing the new donation system. This station connects directly to a digital scale. A volunteer simply selects the donor and the category, and the weight is recorded automatically. This is a huge step towards making every single part of your operation faster and more accurate. And it's a perfect example of how we are working to build innovative and thoughtful solutions hand in hand with our partners, the food banks who've signed up with us. So to recap, the new features give you deeper control, greater flexibility, and stronger security, all designed to help you focus on your core mission. And the best way to understand this impact of these tools is to do them live. So we'll now be transitioning to our product demo. If you have any questions at any point in time, please unmute yourself and ask, or drop the questions in the chat. I want you guys to help drive this conversation by asking me about the things that you are interested in so we can focus on those topics. So I'm going to switch over to the demo quickly here. So this is our sign-in page, which I'm sure some of you have seen before at the previous demo. I brought us back to this page to start this demo because I want to show off the multi-factor authentication and how that works. So I have multi-factor authentication turned on for my account. And when I log in, I'll be prompted for a code. And I can get that code from the email on my phone that I just received. And by entering that code, I can easily log in and access. I was in the policy page when I logged out, so I'll jump back to the home page here. Mark, what's up? You have a question?
Yeah, I can't see the screen.
Okay. You can't see the screen. Okay, let me figure out what happened there. 1 second.
Still just your presentation.
Yes. I thought I was sharing the entire screen. So let's try this again.
There.
That work? There we go. All right. Let me log in and do the MFA again. Thank you, Mark. Sorry about that. I am just going to quickly clear the cookies because I asked it to remember me. Delete that. Okay. So, as I'm sure some of you should be familiar with this screen, the login screen, not the presentation screen we saw earlier. And your users, your volunteers, your staff will come here to log in. And when they log in, if they require MFA, they will get this pop-up. And like I stated earlier, I'll get an email with a now different MFA code to get me in. And when I enter that, I'm then brought to this screen where I can then select the food bank because I've signed up for 2. Most of your volunteers will just be brought to the one food bank, but volunteers can use one account and sign up for multiple food banks if multiple food banks in your area are using our system. And then we hit the homepage with the mission statements, the updates that you guys can post, hours of operation, contact details. Clarington East Food Bank has allowed us to share some of their stuff too, including their homepage. So this is what their homepage looks like with their logo, their updates, their hours of operation, their close today, and their contact details and their mission statement up there in the top left corner. So just because I know some of you haven't seen this before, we're just going to do a brief touch on everything, and we're going to focus on the topics that you guys, when you signed up, requested to view the most. So starting from the top here, you have a little bit of volunteer management. You can see the hours for volunteers here, the 12 hours volunteered. I'm going to actually do this on the demo food bank. Total hours volunteered here. You can see the permissions that they have. You can change their permission groups. So you have a lot of control over who can do what. As you can see, there's a large amount of permissions. So you have very finite control over what options are available to specific users. You can see new users who have requested to volunteer here, the first name, the last name, and the username, and you can go through the process of approving or denying them access to the food bank. In the shift section, this is a system that we overhauled that there was some interest for. So this is the new interface for admins for shifts. You get a nice little calendar, the first month, last month lineup. So when you look over at October, you'll see that the first is the Wednesday, as you all know. And you can see who has signed up for each of these shifts. So currently there's no one signed up to any of these shifts because this is my demo food bank. If I go over here, I thought I signed up to, okay. I haven't signed up to any of these. So we can add someone to a shift by going like this, selecting that, and they will receive an email, which I don't know if you can hear it, but my phone just buzzed. I got that email on my phone telling me that I've been signed up for the October 1st shift. And I will actually be able to check that over in the shifts tab that we'll get to later. But this is the new system. You can add shifts nice and easily. You can view who's signed up, and you can edit the shifts as needed. So moving on, we'll touch on the slideshows briefly. There wasn't a lot of interest for the slideshows, so I'm just going to go over it quickly. If you have a TV in your waiting room, you can upload a PowerPoint, and it will display on that TV a nice slideshow that just loops the PowerPoint slides there. So it's simple, easy to use, couple clicks, and you're good to go. Your family management here, this is for your intake and all that. So you can add families. You can set the refresh date, like we mentioned, on custom dates. So this family on the 24th of every month, their points will reset and their limits will reset. If I have it set to this. Their address, you can change that to whatever, their last name can be whatever, and then you enter in the number of infants, enter the number of infants, children, and adults, and that actually changes the number of points that are available based on the calculations that you set up when you first create the food bank. And then you have to provide a family member. Anyone have a name that I could use that they'd like to see in here? A name for a family member? No? Okay, I will come up with a random one. Joe. And then if you fill out their email address and they do online orders, they will actually get updates for like when the cart is packed, when it's ready for delivery, when it's going for delivery, when it's ready for pickup. All that fun stuff they'll receive emails for. So I'm just going to throw in Joe a random email address here, and enable email alerts. All right. We've got another person who's joined, and just so you know, this is being recorded, and we are transcribing the call's audio into text for notes and all that. So the recording will be passed out later on in case you want to catch up on anything you missed. So you can also enable online orders for families too, if you're interested, and we can record other information such as allergies, food preferences, language barriers, whatever feels relevant can be added in there. And then the new family pops up here, and you can see they have a code to join the online ordering that is unique to each family. If we go through the order history here, we can just briefly see that, yes, we track all the orders going back as far as you've been a member of the online, like as far as you've been using their software. We can record your orders for you. So there's a nice long window there with a lot of orders, and the online orders, you can see we've changed how they're done. So we actually track what you packed versus what they requested. So as you can see here, cake mix, 3 was requested, but we didn't have any, so we packed 0. And the total points charged was 0 because we didn't pack any, right? And tuna, we only packed 1 out of 2. So tuna is 2 per. So their total was only 2 because they only got 1 out of the 2. And then cream and mushroom, we put in an extra. So we packed 3 out of the 2, and it's 1 per, so they were charged 3 points for that. And you can see the weight of the cart in pounds or kilograms, whatever your preference is, just by clicking on the pound or kg label there. And you can see the volunteer who helped check out that cart. And then over here with our item management, we can see with the inventory updates, you now have the current inventory. The inventory that has expired pops up here. Oops, didn't mean to click that. Which warns you that we have 5 units of chicken noodle soup that have expired. And we also get the warnings here saying, hey, some of it's expiring soon and some of it has expired at this point. Obviously, we can see what has expired. The expiring soon stuff, we have to go to a different tab to see that. You can download your barcode sheets like we talked about in the Ontario conference. You can stick those on the wall to make scanning a lot easier. You can also add whatever barcodes you want. For example, soup has a custom barcode that is just the word soup, and apples have a custom barcode that's just the word apple. The other products are using, most of the other products are using their actual UPC codes. And then this is the point calculation that we talked about earlier for the families. You can adjust it so each month different points are available based on a set of rules. So you get, 10 per adult, 10 per child, 10 per infant, and then in July you might bump that up and do like 20 per child and infant. And that kind of sums up the administration side of this. So now we're going to jump over to, we have some statistics here. I'm going to use Clarington statistics because they look a little bit better. And we've already chatted about that. So you have your family sizes here. So you can see the number of families that have 1 member versus number of families that have 8 members, and you kind of get an idea of the demographic in this area. It is a lot of single member households that are using the food bank, and a lot of smaller families with 4 or less family members. And then you can see the point usage here. So it gives you an idea of, so a 3-member family has 70 points available. They are using a maximum of 67, an average of 67, and a minimum of 67. So all of the 3-member families that have come in this month have used 67 points. This is, the left graph is the total number of families registered. The right graph is just based on who's come in this month. And as you can see, in some areas here, the 5-member family, we have actually gone over. The family that's used the most has used more than the number of points allotted, or more obvious one being the 4-member family, where they've almost doubled the points allotted. And same with the 1-member family, there's a pretty significant jump there too. In our statistics, we can see the cumulative points that have been given away per month. So it gives you an idea of overall load on the food bank. And you can see that around January, February, March, the Clarington food bank sees a dip. And then in the summer months, they see a bit of a spike there in July and August, which is to be expected with kids out of school. And then you have your item statistics, which show you just your basic top 10 items, how many you gave away last month versus how many you've given away this month. So it gives you an idea of, as you can see, produce is going a lot more than it was last month. And other things like craft dinner hasn't had as much go this month as last month, or Mr. Noodles, for example. Jumping past statistics, reports. Once again, this was a category that people weren't too interested in, so we're just going to run a very quick report here. We'll do the item report for the month, and it's just a simple report showing you, for example, the number of produce given away this month, and the number in brackets here is how much that's changed compared to last month. So they're up 43 units of produce, right? Simple stuff, and this is for every single item that you have given away, at least one of. So that's a nice simple report there. The cart system, this is something a lot of people are interested in, the point-based shopping system. So there's two ways that carts can be submitted. You can create a cart here for in-person shopping and use a barcode scanner to go around scanning stuff and shopping with the neighbor present, or they can submit an online order. We'll get into that a little bit more later. We're going to do the in-person cart here. So we'll use that new family. Oh, I'm on Clarington's, my bad. We will use that new family that I created over here. And we'll create a cart for them. As you can see, I've already submitted an online order for anyone who's at the Feed Ontario conference knows that when we were there, we created a new user, and it was Super Mario was what the crowd decided to call that new user. So in this case, we'll be using the new user that I just created for the in-person shopping. So you click in here, you can see all these details. If you're doing it with a computer or something where you don't have a barcode scanner attached, you can add items manually by clicking here and clicking on the item itself to add it. If you have a barcode scanner, you can quickly, I don't have a barcode scanner with me, unfortunately, you can quickly scan items and pick up the barcodes that way. So we will add a few things here and we'll get an idea. So we have a group limit here called the demo group, which I haven't gone into that yet, but I have created group limits for some of these items. So they share a limit in a sense, if that makes sense. So both these being part of the demo group, will have a shared limit. Milk 2 also has a limit of its own. So if I go over that limit, I get a nice little red warning here and a red pop-up here. And if I try and check out, I get a pop-up warning me that we are over the limit for milk 2. So I can set that back down to 1. And another item that is in that group, I believe, is the soup. No. Small soup. Give a mushroom. All right. I'm having trouble remembering which one was the other one in the group here. Ooh. Catherine, welcome. We are recording this and we are transcribing this. So if you miss anything, you can go back and look at the recordings and the transcription. So as you can see, we do have the group limits now. So if we go over the group limit by bumping milk up to 50, for example, we'll get a warning that we have to decrease one of these two. There's a limit of 10. So obviously, if we go down to 9 here, that warning goes away. We can then check out this cart. It records the weight and everything and all those details in our order history. And we see the number of points that this family has left at the bottom of the screen there, just faded away. They have 32 points left. Now, for an online order, we've pre-submitted one for Super Mario. He's gone over quite a few of his item limits, and he has not gone over any of his group limits, I believe. So he is good to go. So we're going to start packing his cart. He will have negative 25 points at the end of this transaction because he spent 82 points and he only gets 56 points. So we're going to work with that. So small soup, he's already over his limit on that. He's gone over by 1 so far this month. We're going to give it to him anyways. The full-size soup, we're not going to give it to him. The milk, we're going to add just 2 of those. And the other milk, we're going to add all 4. And for the candle, we're going to add 5, let's say. We're then going to finish the packing, and we're going to get a pop-up warning us that, hey, we are missing this much of these 2 items that he requested, or we sure want to continue to check out. We do, because he's gone over his limit, and we know this, so we're aware of that. It's now in the status of packing complete, so he has received an email saying that his cart has been packed. We can now click on this and say, okay, it's ready for pickup. You'll get another email telling him that, hey, we're ready for you to pick it up. Stop by. We'll give you the packed food when you get here. And when he does pick it up, we just close the order and it will go away. and it'll be saved in our order history permanently now, so we can have that for statistics, and we can look back at that if you ever need to reference the previous orders for whatever reason. And that's kind of the gist of how the point-based shopping works. We do rely heavily on tablets and barcode scanners, and we do recommend that that is how our clients use that. The barcode scanners make it really quick and easy to shop. The Clarington Food Bank can attest to that later on in this video, but that is definitely a major win, the barcode scanners. Now I'm going to jump back over to CEFB for the donations. And we are going to see, so this is their month's donations, and we're going to just jump over to the summary page here. They obviously haven't had any donations today because they're closed today. We're going to look at this year's donations just to get a nice range, and we want the weight displayed in pounds. So there's your total poundage for donations that the Clarington Food Bank has received so far, 52,585 pounds. And you can see that most of it is the category that they've created called regular, which they've received 28,000 pounds of. And then second most is miscellaneous at 12,000 pounds. And then third most is produce at about 4.8 thousand pounds. And then by donor here, this is a really busy graph right now because they have received a lot of different donors that they've entered into the system. Private being their biggest, No Frills being another big one, Wilmot Creek being another big one, and Foodland being another big one. So if we filtered this down a bit and we went with the donors and said Wilmot Creek, Foodland, and private, we can see how much those three donated, a total of 26,444. And then you have the actual donation dates, the weight donated for each of those dates, and the category that you put it in for each of those dates recorded here. So you can see there's a very large Wilmot Creek donation on July 14th. 1 second. And yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of how the donation system works with the new graphs and the new way of displaying that data for you, so you can use that for your fundraising and for targeting your donations as needed. Policies was something not a lot of people are interested in, but I'm just going to quickly touch on it anyways. So here you can upload your policies and have your volunteers sign off on them. It's like an e-signature thing, and you can see a list of who signed off, who hasn't signed off. You can send email reminders to them if they need to sign off and they aren't, or you can just talk to them in person if for some reason they're not doing it. You can upload new revisions. When you upload a new revision, everyone who's signed off on it before is required to sign off on it again and will receive an email reminding them to do such. And you can view the policies at any point in time, so you can constantly go back and use this to review things. I know this was a big selling point and very helpful with the Clarington Food Bank getting their standards of excellence through FoodBanks Canada. So just going to brush over that quickly. The enhanced inventory management. So this is how, this is Clarington's, I want demos. The enhanced inventory management, this is how we're now tracking expiry dates and how we're tracking different inventory locations. So if we look in here at the chicken noodle soup, we have a location in every item has a location called the active inventory. That is what is on your shelves, what people are taking home with them, basically, right? We don't track the expiry date for that because it's assumed that that will be a mixed bag of expiry dates, right? Some of them will be expiring this month, and then some of them will be expiring next month because you don't have enough of this month, you know what I mean? So that is a mixed bag. And then you can add your own storage locations as you want. So I've added storage shelf 1 and expired location. Expired location can hold 10 units, and it currently has 5, and they expired way back in July of 2025. And storage shelf 1 is holding 20 units. It has the capacity to hold 100, and they expire tomorrow. So we're just going to quickly transfer from storage shelf 1 to the active inventory. We're going to transfer all 20 of these out there, and then it's going to update the dates and everything. So there's nothing expiring soon now because there's nothing on that shelf. We now have 120 inventory inactive, and the expired inventory is still down here in the expired location. You can do this for as many things as you want to. This is not a requirement. You don't have to track inventory to use the grocery shopping system. This is just a nice little add-on to help you keep track of your expiry dates. Over here we have our groups. So we have a volunteer group, and how the volunteer groups are working right now is when a requirement is set on a shift, which is not something that is available to the public yet, you can require a shift like a shift can require a user to be in a certain group. If that user is in that group and they leave the shift, other members of that group will receive a notification that that shift is available. This is great, for example, if you have drivers, right? The drivers have to be on your insurance to drive your vehicles if you have company vehicles that are owned by you guys. And this will allow you to automatically send out emails to the other drivers who aren't signed up for this shift already and alert them to the fact that, hey, there's now an open vacancy on this shift. We need it covered as soon as possible. So here's a link to quickly sign up. And this will ensure that, well, this helps ensure that someone's available for those shifts so you're not short-staffed for important roles such as drivers for deliveries or someone working the front desk computer when people are coming in, right? Because those are very critical roles where missing 1 or 2 or 3 people could very much impact your daily operations. Over here, we have our item groups. So this is where you apply the group limits, and you can also make these items available online with the check of a box, and all of those items will now be available online. So in this case, this group allows you to have up to 10 items, and you can pick any of milk 2, milk 1, or candle. So you could do 9 candles and 1 milk 1. You could do 8 milk 2 and 2 milk 1, assuming that there's not already a limit on them. So we know that milk 1 already has a limit of, sorry, milk 2 already has a limit of 1. So they can take 1 milk 2 and then they can take 9 more of the others, basically. Or they can take 9 milk and 1 candle or whatever, right? I hope that's pretty simple and self-explanatory. And then we have the family groups. This is for mainly used for online ordering. So you add all your families in, you create a group, add all the families you want to do online ordering in here for now. You hit online orders enabled, and then you hit send invites to group, and it will send out an email to every member of the families that aren't using the online ordering system already. So it won't re-email someone if they've already signed up. It'll only email them if they're new. And the email contains detailed instructions on how to sign up for the system, their unique code to sign up for the system, and links to help them get started signing up for the system. We'll actually use one of those emails to sign up a new, like the new family. We'll actually use one of those emails to sign up a new family to the online ordering system later on in this demo, because I know that was something that had some interest. And then over here with shift stuff, so we can see the shift that I was signed up for here, the October shift that you saw an admin sign me up for earlier in this video. If I can't make that, I can cancel that shift, and then I can go in here and I can sign up for other shifts, and I can say, hey, we only have 1 shift type, my bad. I'm going to take the 29th shift instead, if that's okay, and I'll hit that. And then now over here in my shifts, I have the 29th shift instead. The administrators have received an email telling them that I'm no longer available for the first shift, and that I've now signed up for the second shift. And I have received an email confirming that I am no longer available for the first shift and that I've signed up for the second shift. The permission system here, this is where you can set up your multi-factor authentication along with how many days between MFA prompts. Obviously, if you're on a new device, you'll be prompted for that. But if you're using the same device, it won't prompt you for X days. Assuming no one else logs into that device with our system, that will bump you up, if that makes sense. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of how this system works. Do we have any questions so far? Thoughts, comments, concerns? All right, everyone's following along just fine, right? I hope. Okay. So moving over to the online order thing, I'm going to quickly log out of here. Or actually, we'll actually just open a new incognito tab here. New incognito window, we'll go. So we'll go here in a new incognito window and we will hit sign up. And I'm just going to quickly pull up the email. Let me get that. Okay, so here's our email with our sign up instructions, our code, when the code expires, and the links. So I'm going to put this on my other screen here so I can just copy and paste out of it. And I will, if anyone wants to see this email, I can send a copy of this to you guys. And you can just view the email if you want to. Now let's get the incognito window up here. So first things first, we need the token. So if I'm following the instructions, it says click the sign up button below to begin the process. I'm already there. On the sign up page, enter the token provided in this email. Important, the token is only valid until the expiry date. If this token expires, please contact the food bank name for a new token. These are actually properly filled out, so I'm going to put my token in there. It recognizes that this is a valid token for demo food bank. Awesome. I can hit next. It's now looking for just my first name, and my first name has to match what's on file for this family. So this is John Doe's family, so I can use John. And then an email address for him. This is where he'll receive email alerts and stuff like that. So I will use what's up, Ray? Do you want, what's your question?
Sorry, the phone was working for a little bit. Thank you, Dan. I'm just wondering, let's say John is married, and could his partner use their own name when doing this, or would they have to use John's name?
Nope. So how it works is if you've entered both partners into the system, either partner can sign up, both partners can sign up and have their own independent accounts if they want. They're all tied to the same family, so they'll all spend from the same points and they'll all have the same limits. So John and Jane, for example, I'm just going with the, the Does that they use in movies and hospitals and all that. If they were both interested in signing up with separate accounts, they could use the same token because they are the same family, and they could sign up with 2 separate accounts each using their respective first name, or 3 if you have 3 adults in the family who would be ordering, or whatever, right? Does that make sense? Awesome. Yes, so just any member of the family. I just looked at the email, and this email was sent to John Doe. It was also sent to Jane Doe, who's the other, the partner of the demo account that I created, the demo family that I created. So we're just using John because that's the email that I clicked, luckily enough, I guess. So John is now going to receive a verification code. Oh, I did the wrong email, so that's going somewhere random. And that's why we do the verification codes, to make sure that we can actually send them emails for password resets and stuff like that. All right. Yeah, I figured that was that. Let me get the email here. Activate your client account. So my verification code is 213485. And I hit next, and the verification code is confirmed. I then have to make a username for myself to log in. I'm just gonna do John Doe. And then I have to create a password. That will be my password. There we go. So now I can log in as John Doe. Oops. Did I spell it right? And then I hit login, and then he's now able to access Demo Food Bank, and he's able to place orders and all that stuff like he normally would. That's kind of the gist of how the online system works. They will see your mission statement. They will have the contact us button here that they can click on to get your contact details. They will see the logo, and they will see the updates that you post to them specifically, and they will see your hours of operation, so they know when they can come in and visit if they need to come in person for whatever reason. So that's kind of the gist of how this system works. I know it's a lot of information to take in, so if anyone has any questions, thoughts, concerns, anything like that, please feel free to ask them. We will be doing a Q&A session later on with Clarington Food Bank, where they will detail how they use the system, and you can ask them questions that are more food bank specific about how they've adopted the system. So last chance for any questions before I hand this over to DoGood. All right, I am just going to quickly move things over to DoGood here. Rohit, if you just want to accept that, and then we can have you share your screen if you accept the second pop-up there. Okay, So Rohit from DoGood will be covering how DoGood can help you with grant writing and how they can help you receive our software at a discounted or potentially free price. And I leave it in your capable hands.
Thanks, Daniel. Good afternoon, folks. So Daniel and I met at the Ontario Association of Food Banks conference back in April, and I was very impressed with his work with the company and the system. I'm going to present a brief presentation to you today, talking a little bit about what we do and how you can essentially get access to his innovative solution at a low cost. And a little bit of a background about sort of me and how I got involved in this line of work. I was actually on the grant review team of the Ontario Trillium Foundation for 5 years. So I reviewed and assessed grants, and I had a few folks tap me on the shoulder and suggest that I should start a business. And fast forward to many years later, DoGood funding has raised over $20 million. Between 20 and 25 million at this time for charities and nonprofits. And so we do that through a number of services. We write grants, we research grants, we teach and train folks sort of in a format like this or in person. We do strategic planning. We even have a database, and we'll be pulling some opportunities from there today as part of this talk. So if anyone has any burning questions or anything that they want to ensure is communicated in this session, please use chats, and I'll certainly make sure I do my best to provide that information. So we'll talk very quickly about our process, because we're often asked, like, how can you use grants to help food security organizations to get funding? So we'll just tell you how we work. I'll talk briefly about building relationships with funders, strategies for writing effective grants, and then we'll look at some of those grants. And remember that the goal here today is to convince you that you can get all the Thurtell Tech software and hardware that you need at a very low cost / free if you collaborate with folks like Daniel and myself. So that's really the goal of this presentation, to provide some information and to demonstrate to you that we are as invested as you are in your work. And I actually worked at a food bank. That was my first full-time work right after post-secondary. And I spent about 2 years sitting down with probably about 200 families, managing the volunteer management cycle and then leaving operations. And so I think that is a very relevant piece of experience that I'd like to share, because I myself am somebody who cares deeply about food insecurity, and certainly have dealt with the operational challenges of small operations, which were not, I guess, supported by tech. And that food bank today has moved to a grocery store model, and it's something I advocate for. So a little bit about our process very quickly. When we work on a grant, we start by checking the eligibility for your organization and reviewing the application questions and mandatory documents. So we want to ensure that nobody would ever get declined, because your time is very valuable. We then duplicate the questions in Google Docs so that multiple team members, board members, staff can work on them, and we establish a budget. So for me and my team, it's all about making sure that you have a strong strategy and a budget in place. That might include a quote from Daniel and his team. Hopefully it does. And then we move forward from there. We begin grant writing. We have a peer review process internally where one person writes, another person reviews. So you're getting multiple eyes on it. And we'll often discuss the details between the writer and yourselves. We'll gather all the mandatory documents. We'll complete our review, revisions. And a lot of folks are using AI these days. I really ask my team not to use AI. I don't think it's very effective. What they're allowed to do is to bridge sentences, so they can come up with a list of bullets and use bridging words to put those together. And they can use AI not to write the answers to the grant, but to look at the grant writing and look for errors. but we don't write using AI, and I don't think any grant writer should. We then upload that grant to the online portal. We download a copy of the grant application, all the attachments, and that's for you to keep on file. And then we press submit, and we record a copy of the submission, and we record that screenshot to confirm submission, and you receive that. So that's just a quick 1-minute overview of our process. Now, in this workshop, I'm talking a little bit about funding and grants, but it's very important to talk about building relationships with funders, which I think is a critical part to winning the grant. In this environment where everybody is putting stuff into a ChatGPT, throwing it at the funder and seeing what happens, the folks who are going to stand out are the ones who build relationships. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things here. I'm going to tell you that grants bring in support from institutions. They're the best way to engage with corporates, and that winning a grant has a domino effect. Let's start with the institutional support piece. So in my experience working on grants and proposals, and we do between 200 and 300 a year, we find that it's all about relationships. We find that you need to let a funder know about your work in your community and why it's important, and maybe why there's a sense of urgency or why they should fund this work. And so I think it's about having a conversation with the folks who manage these institutions. Maybe it's your community foundation, maybe it's another funder. But I want you to recall that a lot of these individuals, they spend time with each other. They're very well connected. And so there's a huge benefit of building a relationship with a funder, which is that it can lead you to other funders, and funders often connect with one another, and they spend time together. When it comes to granting with corporations, the application process is the best way to engage with corporate funders. So where I live in Brampton, people talk a lot about Amazon. Amazon has a huge presence in Brampton, and everybody wants funding from them. But in order to engage a corporation that big, you have to apply locally, right? So corporations tend to give where they have employees, where their offices are situated, but you also have to go through that application process. So that food bank that I worked for, they actually did recently get Amazon support. They got a $90,000 grant. And the way they did that was they started by bringing in a corporation like Amazon, building a relationship with their staff, having them come and paint the food bank, participate in some corporate volunteer days. And next thing you know, they got that donation. I was very surprised to hear it, but then when you look at how they built a relationship, it's not that surprising. When it comes to relationship building, I find there is a domino effect. So the more grants you win, the more grants you will win, right? Funders will always ask a question on your grant proposal, which asks about your success. They'll say something like, what is your previous history of success? Tell us about your past experience of managing projects. Give us examples of similar projects you've managed successfully, right? So what they're looking for is they're looking for that track record. So have you actually successfully managed that project? Are you reputable, trustworthy, reliable? And so when you win that grant, because of your track record, you can go on to win more grants. And like I say, it's a domino effect. So the other thing I want to briefly talk about is, how do you write an effective grant? Because anybody can write a grant. I mean, really anybody can put a prompt into an AI and write a grant these days, but a lot of them are not effective. Here's some strategies for effective grant writing. I talk about fit, and I'll say that funders really want the right fit, and maybe your organization is the right fit, and maybe Third Tail Tech is the right fit for the project you're applying for. But what does that look like? Well, they want your existing work to continue. You may be a food bank, a soup kitchen, a food center. They want you to keep doing that, right? They don't want you to get into entertainment or sports and recreation. Like, if you can do the existing work you do, that's fantastic. Funders love that. If the focus of the funder and your focus of your organization is aligned, right, that's a good fit. So we'll talk about some funders that fund food security or food insecurity. And you'll find that what they're focused on funding and the mission and mandate of your organization, there's strong alignment. That's a really good fit, and that's what funders want. The ask also has to be suitable. As a past reviewer with Ontario Trillium, I found that far too often people were asking for things that they didn't need. You know, we had a trend for a while where everybody wanted iPads, right? It'd be another application. Oh, they want 11 iPads, you know. Somebody wanted dozens of iPads, right? And funders will look at an application and will say, is this reasonable or not, right? So you heard about Daniel and the tech they offer. This would be considered a very reasonable expense on most grants because it's efficient. It speeds up your operations. It ensures that folks who are food insecure can get access to food faster, and that it's the correct food, it's culturally appropriate, it's the correct amounts based on family size, right? So I think funders want fit, and you know, if you put in a budget that's suitable, you say that you're going to be getting this technology innovation, you say that you're going to be implementing it, maybe you have a staff member that's overseeing that effort, training volunteers, then you can get it funded and you can get the costs fully funded. It's a wrong fit situation when you have to create a brand new program that's completely in a different direction. So it is a good idea if you're able to stick to your existing programs, but if every time a grant comes, you're just making up a new program, which we see all the time, people doing or wanting to do, we try and guide them away from that strategy. If the funder's focus is different from your organization's focus, the alignment is a challenge, and you should really look elsewhere, right? So there are funders who don't have food insecurity as a focus area, or they won't mention it at all. Focus on the funders who are interested in food insecurity. And then when it comes to asking for more money than needed, like keep the budgets reasonable. You know, you want to be careful to see if funders have restrictions. I was working on a grant this morning. Our client had written the word insurance. I let them know that that would lead to a decline on that grant, right? It was an ineligible expense. But other times when someone's asking for, 11 iPads, 2 dozen iPads, ask yourself, do we really need all those? Can we get away with 2 iPads, right? For instance. So once you follow the guidelines, you've answered those questions, and you've checked for errors in not just your logic, but your consistency. Does the budget match the work plan? Is there a strategy that is channeled throughout the grant? That's very effective. And sometimes we want you to develop that strategy before you start writing the grant, but sometimes it evolves as you go. And so at DoGood, we use Google Docs all the time on all the grants we work on. It's a free software, and it allows you to do a lot. You can track changes, you can add comments. This is a really effective way that I find that helps collaborate as a team. So here's some examples. These are real examples of actual grants where we were collaborating. There's the budget. So when strategy matches budgets, funders are happy, they have no more concerns, the request is reasonable. That's probably a winning grant right there. So the last thing I'm going to share with you folks is talking a little bit about some grants that are coming up. And what I did was I just went into our database and I did a search. So our database is DoGood Grants. It's our own innovation that we've hired a developer for, and we built it because people kept saying, hey, is there anywhere to get cheap information about grants? And there wasn't one, so we created one. A lot of what you're going to see is just taken from here, and certainly if you found this presentation helpful, let Daniel know. He'll facilitate an introduction. He can just introduce you to us, and we welcome you to have a conversation with us about what we offer. This is just one of what we offer. So in this database, what you'll find is there are grants, and some of them are actually identified by food insecurity. So it's really great because we don't use AI like so many other databases do. I'm not a huge fan of AI, and I find that a lot of folks are doing this thing called scraping, where they go along the internet, kind of like dragging a net along the bottom of the ocean floor and picking up whatever they can. It's not that effective. We actually have real humans who work for us who do this research, and all the time we're adding new grants every week. We're taking away grants that are no longer active. So you may have heard of the Sobeys Community Action Fund. If you haven't, this is the major grocery giants grant that they offer throughout the year. And it's up to $10,000. It has a few focus areas, but food insecurity is very prominent. And I think it's a really good opportunity here. It's up to $10,000. You can get some of the software that you learned about today from Thurtel. You can get it funded through a grant like this. It's interesting that if you look at the brands that you engage with, whether it's the car you drive or the coffee you drink or the food you eat, a lot of them do have their own foundation or corporate giving. Honda Canada is another one of those. And all you need to do is just investigate whether they give to your organization and to your specific area. And if they do, then fantastic. You should consider making an ask. And if they don't, then it's worth looking at a funder that is very focused on that particular subject matter. So Honda Canada does quite a bit of work in a number of areas, but interestingly, they say that food banks are one of their focus areas under their community pillar, right? So automatically, the conversation is easier because they've identified this themselves, right? We've done research, we've looked up a lot of the funders, and when they say that food banks are an area of interest, and you say, well, we're a food bank, well, then that conversation is going to be a lot easier. They'll also talk a little bit about technology here. You'll notice that that's an aspect of their work. Honda is very heavily focused on technology and technological innovation. What would happen if you showed them Thurtel Tech, maybe the quote from the company, and you said that we want to innovate by having this in our organization? What do you think they would say? How do you think they would respond? I think they would respond pretty favorably. McKesson is a giant in Canada. They're worth billions. And they also accept applications for food insecurity. And so they are a healthcare giant with geographic presence all across the country. And so regardless of where you're situated, they can give you up to $25,000. Farm Credit Canada, more well-known in communities where FCC, the financial institution, can be found. They do lending, but they are very heavily involved in rural and northern Ontario, as well as other communities across the country. They say you must focus on one of the following initiatives, and food security is listed right there. So it's no surprise that an organization that dedicates themselves to food security or fighting food insecurity is going to be a good one to reach out to about for instance, a system that you're trying to implement in your food bank, food center, soup kitchen. So this is a good one. And then we'll get into some, and note that the dates here are speculative, right? So what we've done is we've taken the date from 2025 and we've bumped it to 2026. Sometimes that doesn't work out and we have to remove the grant if we get a notice that the grant is no longer offered. But for now, we believe that this fund, the LFIF, is going to be offered until February. There's a stream that was up to $100,000, currently closed. And there's a stream that's from $150,000 to $500,000 that is open. It's all about food insecurity. And let me tell you, it's very easy to put in a quote for some technology in a grant like this, especially at that rate of up to $500,000. So we have quite a bit of experience working in food insecurity. We've won a ton of grants in this space, including this one, I believe. So my favorite grant, just because I have so much insider knowledge as a past jury member and reviewer, is Ontario Trillium Seed. It is my favorite because I'm familiar with it. It's not my favorite from the administrative process on the grant. It's extremely admin heavy, and we spent a ton of time working on this grant this year. For many organizations, we submitted a number of requests, but we also coached a lot of clients, encouraging them to in some cases to get all the mandatory documentation, and in some cases we coach them not to apply for the grant. So it's a complicated grant. Seems simple at first, but it's not that simple. But I can tell you that the technology you learned about today is fundable under this grant of up to $100,000, estimated to open or to be due rather on August 20th of next year. The foundation will confirm. So that was a quick look at some insights from me on how we do grants and how you can do grants. And I appreciate Daniel bringing me in here today to talk to you all. So thank you. And if you're able to also keep in mind, we do some convening as well. You know, I'm hoping that Daniel will be joining us next year at this conference, because we are very heavily attended by food security organizations, including those who attended the Ontario Association of Food Banks conference. And so we're asking you to save the date. It will likely be in Brampton, Ontario, but we're just firming up the details. And hope we can all raise more money. Looking forward to collaborating with everyone here in some form at some point. But over to you, Daniel. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you for that amazing presentation. And I do hope to be able to attend that event next year. And thank you so much for giving us that insight into grant writing and how the grants can help the companies who attended today apply for our software at a discounted or free rate, like you pointed out, and they can get the hardware included. Anyways, I'm going to take over the screen now quickly. And I think we're going to bring up Susan, Susan Pasco from the Clarington Food Bank, if she's still there. There we go. And we're just going to open the floor to any questions that anyone has about how the Clarington Food Bank uses our system and how we've innovated with them to help build the system and improve it in multiple ways. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I'm going to start drilling you with some questions, Susan.
Okay.
Great. Let's feel free.
Hi, thanks. And hi, Susan. Good to speak with you again. It's Gray from the Ottawa Food Bank. Our network is mainly interested in finding a solution to manage inventory for a shopping model type of food bank, where folks are given a set number of points, just like Daniel showed, where they can then go and pick their own food from the shelves. In your experience using this software, what other pieces of the software would you say are critical to use the inventory management part of FoodBank Helper?
We haven't really used the inventory aspect because we're so small. We're not a hub. So everything that we come in, we have eyes on. We've been
That makes a lot of sense.
Pardon?
Oh, I said that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So we do pull the reports consistently in terms of if we're noticing like our craft dinner was down, we look at the reports and we go, okay, on average we're going through 300 boxes a month. Now we put that out on social media to our donors and say, did you know we go through this much craft dinner a month? We really need it. And that seems to really appeal to our donors. Toilet paper was a great example. We did the same thing. And at Christmas, I took our top 10 items and did the 12 days of Christmas, so actually top 12 items. And that drove our donations for most of the Christmas season, that we got exactly what we need. And we didn't get a ton of food items that we don't use.
Yeah. Also, for the inventory stuff, I'm sure if you were to use it, you know that when donations are coming in, we track the inventory going in, and when stuff goes out in the shopping carts, we track the inventory going out to try and keep it accurate. I don't know if I touched on that too much, Gray, but I personally, as the developer, I believe that that's another aspect that would help with inventory management is if you're tracking your donations coming in too, because then you have your incoming automatically tracked and your outgoing automatically tracked.
Awesome. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Any other questions? All right. Susan, I got one or two quick ones for you. And maybe that'll spark some more conversation. So how has this enhanced the day-to-day operations of your food bank? This
efficiency. Certainly efficiency. I think it's actually empowered our neighbors a lot more. That's been the biggest surprise. They really keep track of their points. They think of it as dollars, and they're like, they make more informed choices. They're more respectful. It took away, it's hard when we get milk. We would love to be able to say to everybody, you can have as much milk as you want, but in order to make sure everybody gets milk, we do have to put limits. And the point in the scanning system stops volunteers from feeling they have to say no. It's more the system. They can show the tablet. They've got history from their last order. So, and even our neighbors will be like, no, I didn't get my halal meat last month or last time I was in. And the volunteer might be, I'm not sure. And we can look it up and go, no, they're right. They didn't get their halal meat. Let's give it to them. And it just takes away any kind of questioning. The volunteers, I certainly do like the policy aspect because of the standards of excellence. You need those privacy and confidentiality, the ethical food banking code signed off every year, and the system has made less paperwork for that. The volunteers like the reminder and the emails. Our delivery system has been revamped, and Tracy that oversees the deliveries loves how easy it is. It's just a checklist that she can hit. It's instead of paperwork, instead of phoning people and being on the phone for 20 minutes because they'd also like a conversation, she can now serve more people at the same time.
Sounds good. And once again, if at any point in time anyone has any questions, raise your hand, interrupt me, just let me know, and we will answer your questions. But I'm going to continue with my questions if no one else has anything else, just to try and drill in on the effect that this has on your food bank. So what data from this system do you wish you had been receiving for years? Like, what's some data that you're getting out of the system that you wish had been there for the past 10 years?
What our neighbors use, it leads to more informed buy-in decisions, because we now know exactly how much, like juice is one of our most popular items. So now when there's a big sale, we can anticipate how much we're going to need for the next month, next 2 months, next 3 months. So we can buy in those quantities. I also like that we're really able to accurately evaluate if our neighbors are getting enough food because of the point system. We did have 2 neighbors came up to me separate times, but in the same month, saying, I don't think our points are enough. That can we get more points? And I was able to look at that household size and evaluate it over a 6-month period, and how many families are actually going over their points, because we allow, I don't advertise that they can go over their points, but I do say to the volunteers, it's okay if they go over by a little bit, because it allows me to see if we are given enough food. And I was able to come back with actually 90% of the people in your household size aren't using their full points, so we're going to keep the points where they're at. And they were like, oh, thank you for that information. They felt heard, but they also were happy with the answer.
Sounds good. And then last but not least, what is something that your volunteers neighbors like about this system, and is there anything that they dislike about the system?
They love using the tablets, and they love interacting with the neighbors when they're going around with them and scanning. They love the donation aspect, the new, because that's just been fairly new in the last month. So they're like, oh, no more paper. This is so nice. Tracy and I love the donation system personally. We're not the volunteers, but oh my God, it's so nice not to try and decipher the volunteers' handwritten notes and try to track down where did they put that weigh sheet, and oh no, that food drive weigh sheet's now gone missing. It eliminates all of that. but the volunteers, they like how clean it is. They like how there's no question about did that person get A or B. Our internet went down yesterday, and they were all like, I want my tablet back. They didn't want to go back to our paper model. That's how much they like it. Downside is most of our volunteers are seniors, so there was growing pains just on the login. Dan was incredibly patient. Often did tutorials or videos, or even walked some of our volunteers through it. It's not that it's a difficult system to log in, it's just it's seniors, it's technology, it's new.
All right, sounds good. If anyone else has any questions before we wrap this up, now is your last chance.
Mhm.
All right. In that case, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If you want to chat with me about the software, or if you want to have a meeting with some of your members of your team and we can talk about how it might work with your organization, please feel free to contact me. My details are on the screen, and you also should have an email address that will work for getting in touch with me from your signups to the webinar that you've just participated in. And I would be happy to talk to you about how this system could be used with your food bank. And if there's anything that's missing from the software that you would love to see, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm actively adding new features and improving things as I go. So I'm always looking to build what food banks need.
Yeah, and I will say, Dan, that Dan is amazing to work with and does tweak as you go along. If something's not working, do talk to Dan and say, hey, this would help. And he does his best to really work with your food bank to make it a system that makes everything much more efficient for you. So it's been a pleasure, Dan's help in our food bank.
Yeah, thank you for that compliment. But yes, and if you're interested too, you can follow us on socials. We have YouTube, which has some tutorial videos on getting set up. We have Instagram and Facebook. So please don't be strangers. Feel free to reach out. And it was nice meeting all of you and seeing all your names pop up. And with that, I think that's everything.